This is going to be a super helpful video for anyone interested in food, forest design, pollinator gardens. I'm going to walk you through the process of how I went through a design. I'm going to explain exactly what I did. I'm going to show you the design. If you're interested in building food forests, these are self-maintaining ecosystems, forest ecosystems that grow food, support native plants, support wildlife. They're absolutely beautiful. Really, the core of what I do, the core of food forest design. Yes, I build them for people, but the really beautiful part about it is learning how to create an ecosystem from scratch, how to take like a grass lawn, a dead lifeless grass lawn, and turn it into a food forest. So we're going to get into this. I'm going to pull up different design stages. And the way I did this is I kind of just get my ideas on the paper and then I start moving things around. And so when you design a food forest, what you're doing is you're designing an ecosystem that has all the layers of the forest, trees, shrubs, bushes, and the ground cover. And from there, you're taking all those layers and making sure that every ecological niche is filled. There's aromatic pest confusers, plants that literally confuse pests with their aroma. There's food producing plants. There's plants that fix nitrogen into the soil. There's plants that build organic matter that pull minerals up from the soil. There's plants that attract beneficial insects for pollination, that provide habitat and attract insects that eat the pests so we can keep their population in balance. So there's a lot of different niches. That's just some of them, some of the main ones that you want to fill. So you're working with those two things, and you're also working with the angle of the sun, the soil, and there's going to be a whole series I'm making on food forests, on A to B, how to do it, and I'm going to make a design video. This is a case study. This is a case study design breakdown. So that video will really explain everything about design. I kind of just gave you part of it, and we're going to go and look at what I did. So I took what the client wanted. This client wanted different fruit trees. You can see them over here. Persimmon was the last on their list. They said it was optional, less important. And so we take the space, I just lay it out. The way I got this outline is by going to Google Earth, tracing exactly where they want the food forest with a polygon, and then screenshotting that and tracing the image with a line. I'm using Google Slides. You want these to look professional if you're doing this professionally. You want it to be neat. You don't need a 3D design program. You don't need a fancy 2D design program. I refuse to do that. This is what works for me. This is fully practical and it does look good and professional. That's all that really matters. You can even do it on drawings. If you're doing this as a business, you can make more money, make better sales by saying it's hand drawn. That might even look better if you frame it the right way. That's not a limiting thing. You need to do this in a good looking and a practical way. But I use Google Slides. So I trace that. I have the outline. The Google Earth polygon tells me the exact feet, so I know how long. You can see the feet around here represent the length of each of the edges. You can see where I put the paths. I have notes indicating, actually I don't have it yet, but the paths aren't actually straight lines. We don't want ugly straight lines, but it's just easier to put it here, and then we don't need to plan exactly where the lines are curving. That's something that's easier to do intuitively as you install it. And so this design, let me give you a little more context. Whoa. And so this design is what I call a conceptual design. This is not a design that is meant for someone who wants to fully install the food forest themselves. This is something that shows what the food forest is going to look like, and I use as a benchmark to go design it. A detailed design is a full set of do-it-yourself instructions that I create for people. That's going to be a lot more detailed, that costs more, and that's a lot more work. This is less work, and the reason I'm able to do this is because I have the skill set of designing an ecosystem. I can take this loose framework and then go and see what plants are actually in stock in the native plant nurseries and go from there. That makes it a lot easier compared to every single plant being planned ahead of time. So yeah, that's what we're working with. I took the trees. So we're going to look at this design now. The trees that they requested, and basically I layered them in relation to the sun. How high are the trees going to get? The sun, as you can see by the north arrow, is coming from kind of the lower right area, and all the trees are going to want sun, but I'm designing it so that the whole food forest will have sunlight coming through the canopy. There's not the one big loquat tree or a big persimmon tree on the bottom right where it's just going to block sun for a big part of the food forest. So this is designed so that This is a humid climate. We want good sunlight and good airflow. Now, these canopies are overlapping way too much. You don't want that much overlap. I'm just putting these all together to see what we're working with, to see what can be done. With pruning, it's possible, but really in this kind of climate, you want more airflow with the canopy. So this is just what we're starting with. I basically put the fruit trees in. I was like, okay, they would go in this general order. And let's move on to the next one. So here I decided there's no way we can do a persimmon tree with this design. The client also said they wanted light coming into the windows of their house. So if you look here, you can see that we have a bit of a prairie area on the lower right. That's so that the sun, and you look at the indicated azimuth, the most northwestern place the sun will set and the most southwestern place the sun will set in the summer and the winter. And you look at that and you're like, okay, let's calculate the height of the trees. Let's calculate how far they are from the windows. Depending on how good you want to get at this, there's different calculations you can use. If you read the book Edible Forest Gardens, it'll tell you all about how to do that. But we want to make sure the light is going to come in. And so I'm just starting to move these things around a little bit. I'm like, there's no way we're going to do a persimmon tree. This is a bit better. It allows for the sunlight to come in. We still have a lot of fruit trees. This is not the full design. You're starting the design around the fruit trees as anchors. Let's go to the next one. We got the utility information. And obviously these are just conceptual designs as I was starting. Before you go and really do a design, you're going to want to get the utility information. And it turns out there's some underground things where we can put some ground cover over it. You can see over on the left here, it's not that big of a deal. It looks like a big deal, but it's really not because there's a path here. The path is just going to be a bit wider, and that's fine. It'll be nice to have a wide path along the fence there under the canopy of the trees. That'll be a really beautiful space, and we can still have some ground cover. And so we just kind of move things over. The trees are given a good 4-foot buffer from these underground, I think it was AT&T fiber lines to make sure they won't interfere with it. Another thing, the pomegranate and the pineapple guava tree that are closer to the house, those are trees that aren't going to mess with the foundation compared to other trees. So it's way further than it needs to be. The foundation isn't an issue. And so, yeah, then from there, the client decided they would rather have fig than loquat. And so we have the fig here. And we got more news. There's more utility lines than I thought originally. Again, this looks like a big deal, but it's actually not. Overall, we're going to have less trees. The canopy is just going to have so much more airflow, so much more sunlight penetration, which is going to allow these pomegranate trees and the pineapple guava tree to actually fruit and not have fungal diseases. Same with that fig tree, that big tree back there. You don't want the other trees right up against it. There's a whole lot of sunlight and airflow that's going to come after the morning. See that one pomegranate tree next to it, you think it's blocking it, but really after the morning sun, which is blocked by the house anyway, we're going to have a lot of sunlight. There's a lot of airflow overall on that tree. When you have two trees going near each other like that, you can prune them just a little bit. It's not a big deal. It's just at the beginning when everything was bunched together, that's where everywhere is way too close together. I was just seeing how things work. And so these areas that are the buffer zone, we're going to have plants in the buffer zone. We're just not going to have trees planted there. The area that's actually the utility, you can see the path is part of it. We're going to have a bit of a wider path. And then a bit of that area will have just ground covers growing. So all that this changes is that the path is a couple feet wider. And that's honestly best. If we were going to have a skinny path, it'd be nice to have a wider path by the fence. So it looks like there's a lot less here. But really, this is a design where we don't want too dense of canopy coverage. We want the trees to actually do well, and we're going to have a lot of really cool understory plants. So I'm going to show you guys what's next here. Okay, so yeah, this next guild breakdown here, this is somewhat helpful for me. It gets me starting to think, starting to know what plants to look for. This is more so for the client because they get to see, okay, this is what this guild is going to look like. And they get to say, oh, I really don't like this. And I can find a way to meet all those needs while meeting their desires and their requirements. So just take a moment, check this out if you want. We have the plants, the layer, like I said, the layer of the ecosystem and the ecological niche they fill. We want a good balance of all those ecological niches. There's, 5, maybe 6 insectary. That means 6 insectary plants that attract beneficial insects. That means if black-eyed Susan isn't available, it doesn't do much else. And so it's fine to not include that. I have a list of first picks just to visualize it. Really, when I'm going and doing the design, it depends on what's in stock. I'm not going to run around the city trying to find every little plant when I can have a basic framework and then go take a plant that does the same function and go put that in there instead. With a detailed design for someone, I'm going to spend more time taking into account what's actually in stock. I'm going to look into that for them. I'm going to give them multiple options for each niche so they don't have to go find a replacement. And yeah, this is more so just to visualize, to help me start to think. And so that's the pomegranate guild. This is the pineapple guava guild. It's a smaller tree, so I just put a few plants for the first picks. I'll probably do more than just 4 supporter plants in the actual design. And it's the same thing. You can pause it, take a moment to check this out if you'd like. And the prairie guild. Is a prairie really a guild? It's all really integrated. A guild is a micro ecosystem within the whole food forest ecosystem. A prairie isn't necessarily this little thing that's anchored around a tree, but it is helpful to think about it. This client wants blueberries and elderberries. Blueberries especially, and elderberries somewhat, do good in acidic soil. Blueberries need to have acidified soil or they're not going to have a chance. So in the prairie, I'm actually going to have a little blueberry section that is separate, so I can have that little area with the acidic soil. Everything else, there's going to be a lot of diversity, way more than just these 6 plants. I'm going to include all of these and whatever other native plants fit into the requirements of what the client's looking for. This client didn't want open pollinated, they want insect pollinated plants for allergies. And yeah, so this is just a basic framework again to visualize it. But this goes and just shows you how I do design. So this is the final design here. As you can see, there's going to be a lot of variety of plants within this. And if you stay along, if you follow along, I'm going to put this whole series up from A to Z actually in this design. So this 8 video series of going A to Z on building a food forest, I'm going to record in this design so you can actually watch the whole installation process from A to Z if you want to see a food forest. Now that series is going to be more comprehensive, but you can kind of watch it like this where it's a case study. So this is how I do design. It's pretty simple. Like I said, this is just to visualize it, a really in-depth, detailed design. What does it take to design a food forest? It takes the knowledge and the skill set. You can have less knowledge and skill set and invest more time into kind of how I showed you here. I could have come up with the final design right away, but it was just easier for me to just take it step by step and think about it. If you miss something, though, you can really mess things up. So you do have to at least be at the level where you know everything to include. At a certain point, you'd have to just comb through the book multiple times, which is just going to take way too much time to design a food forest. So if you want me to do something like this for you, if you want me to build a food forest for you, I also will do that. I will sell you, like I said, a design that tells you everything you need to know. This is a conceptual design. If you get this done by me, if you get an installation done by me, I include this. If you just get this done, you can take 100% of the cost of this and put it towards an installation. So it's more of a visualizer, more of a conceptual design. And yeah, that's the video. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd recommend the book Edible Forest Gardens. It's like a 1,000-page book. It's a full comprehensive guide on building food forests. All these little things that I'm taking into account that I'm not even mentioning here, I learned from that book and other places, but that one is really comprehensive. Anyways, follow along, like, subscribe, comment any questions, and I will make a video answering them. Peace.